Today's topic is ways to make the most of God mode on Windows from makeuseof.com.
3 ways to make the most out of the God mode on Windows 10. And that's this article. Let's make it bigger. Now I can make it full screen, but the reason I don't, somebody always suggests, why don't you make it full screen? Sometimes I need to get to the desktop and it just makes it easier to do it that way. On Windows 10 and 11, God mode refers to a system shortcut that shows you a vast list of control panel items. And while it's a huge list of over 200 system options, it can be daunting to look through. Having it around is a good idea in case you need it. As such, there are 3 ways to customize it or to make it even better. But how do you get it? Well, if you haven't turned it on yet, you can enable God mode by creating a folder on your desktop and then you rename it. So I'm going to take this from the article and I highlight it. Again, I do a Control-C to copy it, or I could right mouse click and copy, but I've already done it. Then you go to your desktop and in a clear space, go to New and come up here to Folder. Click Folder. And then in this box, it's already highlighted, but if it's not, you've already clicked outside of it, highlight the title and then just do a paste and paste that line that was in that article and then click outside the box. And then you will see, you'll have an icon for God mode. And if you double click it, it opens up God mode. And this is what it looks like. And let's go back to the article. So we now have enabled it. We know how to get to it. The folder will transform into a shortcut file, which is what we just did. If you open it, you'll see a list of every single control panel setting available. And there are a lot of them. As some components are unmaintained and can cause inconsistencies in your system. Try to only change settings you're familiar with, or don't change any. So that's a warning. Getting the most out of the God mode for Windows 10, you can cut down on clicks to access the control panel. One of the immediate benefits of the system shortcut is being able to quickly open a searchable list of control panel terms from anywhere on your system. Pin this to your quick access or start menu to eliminate unnecessary clicks to access your most important features. Spread handy shortcuts around your system. Every item listed in God mode is a shortcut by itself. As such, you can drag these individual items anywhere in your system to create useful shortcuts for frequently used features. So you can just drag one of them off to the side. It becomes a shortcut for that particular item. And you can also customize it. The folder can be rearranged and organized like any other folder in Windows. You can change the view settings and the order of the icons, or even hide entire categories. And accessing Windows easier with God mode becomes a lot easier to customize and configure when all of the settings are tidy in a searchable list. So that's the God mode. Again, let's go back and let's look at it. So let's see if I can find one that changed the default printer. Okay, I can take this, just drop it over here. And bingo, now, as you can see, and let me minimize this, I now have a shortcut to get to that particular item. So you can take any one of these and it doesn't take it off the list. It just creates a shortcut for it. If you want, you'll see that devices and printers that's got a down arrow. If we click this, they all go away and they aren't shown. And it tells you that there's 12 items in that list. I want to look at them again. There they are. So that's God mode, everything from autoplay, BitLocker, drives and printers, ease of access center, file history, restore your files with file history, say backup copies of your files with file history, some things on fonts, indexing, internet options, and so on. Mouse, how the mouse pointer looks. So if you want to click that, it brings this up. You notice I've got a red arrow and it's large, and I do it from this box. And so you can change the same thing just from this without going into your setup or your settings button and then trying to find it. They're all right here. Questions, comments?
How do you get to God mode?
You create a folder on your desktop. Okay, so I deleted the one that was there. I right mouse click and just go to new and folder. I've created a new folder. Now I got to find the God mode phrase that was in that article, and I have it. So all I do is control V, take that, and I'll show you where that is again so you can copy it. And then I paste it in here, press enter, and it's now God mode, and you can click it and it opens it. Again, that article, this article, what I copied was right here. Copy this whole thing right here, and then paste it into the name, the folder name of a new folder, and that will become your God mode. I hope that answers your question. Jalen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, the only thing that happened when I try that, and I've tried it a couple of months ago and it didn't work, and I tried it again today and it didn't work. I get the notice that only certain characters are allowed in a folder name, so it's not letting me add, and I think it's the curly Q parenthesis that it's not letting me add in. So I can't paste it to my desktop.
And what version of Windows are you running?
Windows 10 Home.
Okay, I'm running Pro. Maybe that's, of course, I'm
Maybe
running
it's a Pro
11.
thing.
Yeah,
Maybe a Pro thing.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm
That's
running
possible.
11. Anyone else having a problem with that?
I have 10 home and I have no problem. I have God mode.
Yeah, I'm running Pro, and what I'm getting is an empty folder when I click on it.
Oh, don't click on it. You want to rename it to
I mean,
that.
after I rename it, and then I click to open it.
Sometimes what I do is let me share my remember to share my screen again. This is a trick I've learned and I use it a lot. Once I share my screen, I'm going to move this over a little bit. And what I always do is I open up Notepad. I put Notepad on my taskbar because I use it so much. In order to find Notepad, you come here, go to all apps, and there's Notepad. And it opened it up on my other screen. So let me slide it over. So I copy and paste things into Notepad, copy them into Notepad, and then copy them again and paste them out. So now I have this right here. I'm going to copy it and then paste it. And that way it takes out any extraneous characters that might have been picked up when you do the copy. Then I take it from here, copy it again, or I can come to edit and copy, either one. And then paste it on my screen. Again, new folder, and it's got to go in here. So if I open this, it'll be an empty folder. So I got to make sure I change the, whoops, see what I mean? So let's go back. We'll come back here and I'm going to click once where the title is here to highlight it. And I can either hit backspace and so it's empty and then paste it, Control V, and then hit enter. Okay, there's already one there. So click a new folder with the number 2 on it. It clicked it again, and there it is.
Okay, my problem was my last bracket wasn't a curly one, and I fixed it, and it works.
Okay. And John, you might try that too. It might be picking up an extra character. Any other questions, comments?
Hello, Hewie, and thank you, Tech for Seniors. I love talking about fun with photos. Today, I'm talking about what's new in Google Photos. I mean, there's new stuff all the time. So I try to do this a couple times a year. There are more things that I'm going to talk about, but I've picked some of my favorites. And the first thing to know is that I do try to keep up with all the changes, and you can find them on the page geeksontour.com/GP updates. And I want to show you that. And just geeksontour.com GP Google Photos updates. And whenever I learn of a new update to Google Photos. I put the date, the chapter of my book that's affected, and some information about it. So if you want to see all the things that are new, go here and look it over. For today, I'm going to be showing, I think, about 6 different things. And starting with a new type of album called My Week. Now, it's nothing really different. It's just an album, but it's a bit of a special album in that it will appear at the top left of your Google Photos screen, along with those memories. And then you can share it with friends and family. You can share any album with friends and family, but as I say, this one will then appear at the top left of their screens. And you are encouraged, it kind of prompts you to add more photos. So your week gets filled out. And in the end, it kind of makes it like a private Facebook for just you and the people you shared with. It's kind of cool. You won't have it unless you have somebody else who already has it. They send you an invite to theirs, and then in a day or two, you will get a prompt to say, do you want to make your own? And here's what it looks like. I'm showing you on my iPhone, but it looks just the same on the Android. And it's up at the top. So this is my Google Photos. At the top, you have this memory carousel. And the very first one is the My Week. It has your little face and a plus. I tap on it, and it works like all the other memories and just goes through a little slideshow. But if you then tap in the lower left-hand corner where the date is, then you see it arranged by week. So I see that I don't have anything for this week yet, and I didn't add more than 2 pictures to this week back here. So I kind of like that. I consider it like a journal. So that is my week. And if you would like an invite, you can find one. If you are a Geeks on Tour website member, you go to that GP updates page, the part about my week, there's a link where you can get your own invite. So that is my week. Next, a menu change. They keep moving our cheese. If you look at your Google Photos, you're probably accustomed to seeing a tab at the bottom called Library. Well, on mine anyway, now it no longer says Library, it says Collections. I actually kind of like this change, except for, not being able to find anything for a little bit. It puts albums and people groupings and places all under collections, where people used to be under search, now it's under collections. And if you don't have that, just wait. This is one that is rolling out. There's nothing you need to do. And they might even change their mind and not do it at all. But my phone now says collections, and I have to get used to it. Now, here is a fun one, Magic Editor. It can do erasing just like Magic Eraser, but it can do so much more. And I have a little pre-recorded segment on that. I'm going to show you some examples of using Magic Editor. I know I'm short, but this picture makes me look like a toy. So you tap on the edit. I am going to use the Magic Editor. That's this green, blue, purple, it keeps changing button right there. And I can just tap on me. Notice how I get highlighted. I could erase me, but no, that's not what I want to do. So I tap and hold, and now I can I can move me around, or with 2 fingers, I can make me bigger. That might be a little bit too much. And then it's the right arrow that says, okay, make that so. That's more like it. It does give me some other choices to see if it did it better in a second try, but that one's fine. I tap the check mark and save copy. For this picture, I think we should be closer together. Edit, Magic Editor. I'll tap on Jim. Oops, that just got his hand. So I need to refine the selection and add. There. Now I can touch and hold. No, I have to say done now that I've added more area. I don't want to erase him. Touch and hold and move him over. And do it. I like it. I tap check mark and save a copy. For this one, I want the horse on the hill to be bigger. Edit, Magic Editor, tap the horse, touch and hold, and then this can be really tricky. I need to get 2 fingers on that horse in order to make it bigger. There, I got it. It can be done. And that's good. I say do it. But Magic Editor can do more. Notice that after I tap the check mark, I still have the Magic Editor button. That's saying there's more that it could do with this. It can make adjustments to the sky. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Or that one, or that one. So it gives me a few, and I can even tap to get more results, but I like that one. Check mark, save a copy. And I've saved the coolest one for last. This is a picture of a banyan tree in my neighborhood that I just think is special. Magic Editor. And I don't want to move anything around, so I'm going to tap Magic Editor again. And notice how it offers me stylized. What is that? It turns it into a work of art with several different choices. Wow. And I could even get more choices. Oh, I like that one. It turned that one hard root into a little waterfall. So I'll check mark and save a copy. Play around with Magic Editor. It's fun. And it's free, and it's on all mobile devices. So give it a shot. Now, it used to be that you had to be a Google One, and before that, you had to have a Pixel. All that's gone. It is available. If you don't have it, it might still be rolling out, but it's been rolling out for a while. You should have it. So that was Magic Editor. The next new thing is markup on the web. You know, Magic Editor, Magic Eraser are only available on mobile, but we did just get one new thing on the web version. If you go into Edit, there is now a button at the far right for markup. Now, unfortunately, I don't see any text options yet. You have to just use the pen and draw what you want. But if you're better at that than I am, you can still get some stuff done. So that is markup on the web editor. And I'm about done here. I want to know how many photos I have. And this has been something that you could not do in Google Photos. And I just noticed the other day that if you tap on your face in the upper right-hand corner and then backup, right underneath where it says your backup is complete, it will give the number of pictures. It can take a minute to show up. So if you go there and you don't see it right away, just wait. So I see that I have 106,192 images in my Google Photos account. AI photos is something that is coming. I have not seen it yet. It is AI asking about your photos. When it comes, it will be that little sparkle at the right side of a search box. And then transfers to iCloud. If you want to move from Google to iCloud, you now can. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And all the instructions are in this geeksontour.com/GP updates, including if you want an invite to that My Week, you can do it. And that is my list of new things in Google Photos.
When you're asked for your social insurance number by someone of authority or someone doing a transaction with you, I say it's time for a fight. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Senior, where we teach seniors about technology and help them with cybersecurity. In this video titled Fighting for Your Social Insurance Number, Bob Gostisha and I have teed up to make a video to help you keep your social insurance number private. In the first part of the video, I'm going to give you 3 examples of how easy it is to let your social insurance number slip out. And in the second part of the video, Bob Gostisha is going to clearly define who should have access to your social insurance number. But remember, it ultimately is up to you. We can make all the videos in the world. We can tell you all the things you should do, but it is up to you to say no. No, you're not going to get my social insurance number. Let's look at some of the examples today. In particular, seniors are often very vulnerable because they're very accommodating and trusting. So if someone asks for their social insurance number, whether it's a doctor's office or you're doing a transaction, they often take out their social insurance number and give it readily. This is a terrible mistake and one you need to be on your toes about. And that's why we titled it Fighting for Your Social Insurance Number. The next thing I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to open your wallet or your purse. I want you to look through there and see if you're carrying your social insurance card in your possession. This is an extremely bad idea because if your wallet or purse is stolen, it's a very key piece of personal ID will be in the wrong hands. Take your social security card, put it in a safe place in your house, lock it up, and leave it there. If you need it, well, you can go and get it, but don't carry it around with you. Bad idea. So the first example I'd like to give you occurred at Best Buy. Now, this did occur a long time ago, but I wanted to give you this as a good example of what not to do. I expect their policies and procedures have certainly changed by now. So the issue was a return of a modem. I live in Arizona as a winter resident for about 10 years. We had a big new Best Buy on East Southern, and I was always helping people in our resort repair their computers. So in this case, I was returning a modem that was sealed, unopened, and I had a receipt to Best Buy on East Southern. It was a big new store, very exciting to go into. And when I went to the return station, there was a bit of a lineup and there were a number of people accepting returns. I got a very smartly dressed young man who had a nice haircut, he had a tie, and was very well presented. He gave me a big smile, and I said that I would like to return this modem, and here's my receipt. He said, "No problemo, sir. We'll do that right away." Wow, I was pretty impressed. So the first thing he did was look down at his computer, and as he started typing, he said, "Sir, what's your social?" And I thought, what's he want my social insurance number for? So I said, "What's a social?" He then, as he was typing in his computer, I'm sure thought I'm an old guy with gray hair. So he thought that I had a hearing problem. So he just shouted a little louder, "Sir, what's your social?" And I sort of shouted back a little louder at him and said, "What's a social?" Now this really perplexed him, and trying to keep his cool, he looked up to me and thought maybe he's got hearing problems and a bit of dementia. "Sir," he said, "I need your social insurance number to start the return. Can you give me your social insurance number? And I said to him, why do you need my social insurance number? Now, the answer that he gave me was very typical and one I want you to pay attention to. He said, I need your social insurance number because it tells me on the screen that I need it, and we need that to start your return. Well, that just wasn't good enough for me. So I thought, I'm going to pull a Canadian trick. So I said to him, well, I'm from Canada and we don't have social insurance numbers in Canada. That completely blocked his thought, and he thought for a minute, and off he went to his supervisor. The supervisor came over after a bit of discussion and said to me, well, sir, he said, we do need your social insurance number to start an account to get your return started. He said, we get lots of Canadians coming in with returns. He says, it's not a problem. Just give me your social insurance number and we can start the return. I said, I don't remember it. I'm an old guy. I can't remember my social insurance number. And after much discussion, he said, well, let's do your driver's license then. Now, I want you to pause that thought because we're going to come back to this example in just a minute because it wasn't so easy with my driver's license either. I was up for a good fight here. We're going to come back to that story in just a moment. So the second incident occurred 1 year earlier. It actually occurred in the same mall. It was a brand new mall on East Southern, and there was a brand new Target store built. Actually, it's right next to Best Buy. So we were there, and I was with my wife, Gail, and we'd never been in a Target store. It was a huge store, multi-level. It just opened that week. So I said to Gail, I've never been in Target. Let's go and have a look around. So we go into this brand new store. Everything was new. They had lots of staff there, but no customers. We were almost the only ones in the store. So we wandered around, had a look at everything. And on our way out, Gail had picked up a couple of things to buy, and there was a big pallet of beer right by the checkout counter. And you know me, I thought, it's half price. This is a good deal on beer. So I grabbed a case of beer, and Gail had her couple of things to buy. So we went to the checkout. Now, there were like 14 checkout counters, but there was nobody in the store. They only had the first one open, and there was a young girl there looking really smart again. She had all her new checkout equipment there. It was a new computer, new scanners. Everything was brand new. So we put the case of beer on the conveyor belt. Gail put her two things on, and it went down. And as soon as she scanned the beer, the alarms went off. I thought I was going to be arrested. There were alarms flashing and everything. And she said, that just means that I have to ask you your age. And I said, oh, okay. I said, I can confirm I'm over 21. She said, oh, I know that. But she said, the new rules are in this machine is that we have to identify you and put your age in. Oh, I said, you want my age? She says, yeah. She said, I need it off your driver's license. Could you just give me your driver's license for a minute? And I said, oh, sure. And I showed it to her. But she said, no, could you just take it out? I have to put the information in the computer. So I said, okay. And I gave her my driver's license. And the next thing I know is that she took it and scanned it. There was an automatic scanner by the till, and she just scanned my driver's license. And there's a magnetic strip on the back. So I was absolutely in horror in that she had scanned my driver's license and taken God knows what off that license as my personal information, all for a case of beer. So I wasn't very happy about that. Gail grabbed my arm and she said, now listen, don't you start anything, and off we went. So when we got home that summer, I went and talked to the district manager of our BC Services Center here in our local area, and he really read the riot act about this. He said that driver's license is property of British Columbia. He said that has very secure, sensitive information on that magnetic strip that only you should be looking at. It sort of has your mother's maiden name. It has a lot of personal information about your accounts, healthcare, etc. There's nobody that should be scanning that information. So that was really stressful, and I'm always careful now in who I give my card to if they want to see my driver's license, and I always hold it in my hand. They certainly have the right to maybe get the driver's license number, but there's no way anyone's going to scan that data. And I might add that the following year, Best Buy had one of their largest data breaches, and most people who had a Best Buy account had their personal information compromised. Just another reason you do not want to give that information out. And just a further discussion, it was about a year later when Target had their massive data breach and all customers' personal data was compromised. Again, it's very important that you must limit that information, and who the heck needs to give you all your personal information, including all the secrets on the back of your driver's license, to buy a case of beer when I'm over 70 years old? Ridiculous. So going back a year earlier at Best Buy, when the manager wanted my driver's license, of course, I was very reluctant to give it to him, and I said he could see the number. Anyway, cooler heads prevailed. We got it all done, but wasn't without a big fight, and no, they didn't get any of my personal data. The third point I wanted to mention was a time when I was in Mesa and I was at the dentist. Yes, I was at an endodontist needing a root canal, big office, lots of dentists, and of course I'm sitting there by the reception filling in some information. And of course, this was a weird reception room. It had one receptionist that was behind, you know, those plexiglass windows with the hole in it? So it was, I never seen anything quite that old. Anyway, the patients would come up and a very efficient receptionist would say, "Mrs. Smith, this is, of course, your name. Yes. Is this your, is 61 da 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 your social insurance? Yes. Is this your phone number? Yes." And would go and list all the personal data off. And of course, the person behind the patient would be saying, yes, 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 yes. And I'm sitting right by the window. If I just turn my recorder on, I would have captured everybody's personal data. I had to wait about 30 minutes. I'm sure there was about 15 people that came up to that window and spouted out all their personal data, including the social insurance number. Again, that would be something that you should challenge. Now, I want to talk about the relationship between your social insurance number and healthcare. Now, in Canada and the United States, the reason for having a social insurance number is the same. It's access to government services. In other words, the government gives you a number, and that allows you to access government services. Now, most often you would use this in the form of taxation to file your federal income tax. In the United States, it gets a little more complicated, and the history is this. Each state has a Medicare program. This is funded by the federal government, and the money flows through the various states. Now, the federal government contracted Equifax, not to administer the program, but to help with identifiers. In other words, they wanted to make sure they had a national identifier that would identify who the people receiving the services are. And this, of course, was the social insurance number. And that's how social insurance numbers initially used in healthcare in the United States. And of course, that went on to HMOs, it went on to labs, x-rays. All the services in healthcare started to use social insurance numbers as an identifier. This went along for a while, and then we had the big Equifax disaster that occurred in 2017. This was one of the first and largest hacks that released people's name associated with their social insurance number. And it's estimated about 2/3 of all residents in the United States had their social insurance numbers leaked. This had a huge effect and involved many of the states suing Equifax. Some Equifax employees even went to jail. There were many fines levied, and a lot of money was paid from Equifax back to the various people who were harmed. The problem, of course, was they needed to change the system so that the social insurance number was not an identifier. And as you see here, the old healthcare Medicare card has your identifier as your social insurance number. Well, that's not true now. It's all changed, and there's a different identifier that is not your social insurance number. There are probably, though, some legacy systems or some old holdovers that always just seem to want your social insurance number, but that's not needed anymore. So in summary, it's your responsibility. It might be a bit of a fight, but do not give that number out, even if somebody asks you, unless they give you a darn good reason why you should release it. And it shouldn't be just because the computer requires it.